welcome back. Liking the music. It's the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Friday. Gosh, man, that Bill Belichick press conference that just took place last hour, that was hilarious. He just literally walked out of the press conference, bombarded with questions about AB, and it was typical Bill Belichick. He just had enough. But anyway, joining us on the line right now, they are going to be the Las Vegas Raiders very soon. It's amazing because that stadium, it's halfway done. It's incredible how fast they built these things.
It does look good.
It's incredible. So the guy we have with us on the line right now does a fantastic job as the beat writer for the Oakland Raiders, soon to be Las Vegas Raiders. He works for the Oakland Tribune. Jon Becker joining us on the line right now. Jon, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
No problem. Thanks.
So, Jon, did you see that, before we get to the Raiders, did you see that video? It just came out of Bill Belichick walking out, just bombarded with questions about Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I just caught that. I tell you, we don't miss Antonio Brown around here as far as the writers. I mean, yeah, he keeps us busy, but I mean, it's a complete circus.
Can you give me an example? Because you obviously you've interviewed Antonio Brown on a number of occasions, probably fairly recently, up until he left. When you talk about that, because you're not the first person that's told us that about Antonio Brown, could you give us an example, maybe a personal example of what happened, maybe with an interaction with you and Antonio Brown that makes you say that?
Well, actually, he never really interacted with the Oakland media. To be honest, he was there just the fact that he is not available, doesn't make himself available. It was just kind of interesting. He only made himself available to the HBO cameras for Hard Knocks. So it looked like he was, kind of play acting there. He was playing up for the cameras. But it just, like I said, there's so much drama surrounding him. I don't know that he's super comfortable being interviewed. It's just that he's got so much going on in his life, obviously, with the off the field stuff, that I just think he doesn't feel comfortable answering questions, so that makes our jobs more difficult.
Sure. Well, absolutely. You need quotes. Absolutely.
And he's not exactly easy to understand sometimes. He isn't the most
that too.
eloquent of individuals.
Yeah, well, that's 100% true on that one. So did you see this thing coming? Did you see that Gruden was going to get rid of this guy, that it was just a huge distraction? Or was it one of those things where you were a little bit surprised when it happened?
I was honestly a little surprised. Gruden is... I mean, he's an Al Davis favorite from way back for a reason. He thinks like Al did. He values talent over any, perceived trouble, any drama that this guy is going to create. If he can play, that's all that matters. And I think getting Mike Mayock there, a lot of Raiders fans figure, you know what, this is actually going to be good because they're going to have somebody to balance Jon out. I know there was a little bit of disagreement on Antonio Brown when it looked like it was becoming a real issue. I mean, when he went after Mayock, Jon came out and he publicly supported Antonio, but I think Jon was realistic enough to know that, hey, look, we can't have this issue, and obviously they came to a decision maybe a couple days before they let him go that, look, we can't have this drama. It was just, I think they realized, look, they're not going to win the division this year, but they're building something there in Oakland that it looks like it might be sustainable. The culture is getting better, and frankly, Antonio Brown's the greatest receiver in the league, but he wasn't helping that culture at all. And I think, a lot of the players, they won't say it publicly, but I think they're glad that he's gone.
Yeah, I agree. You made a good point. I think that Gruden has more of that star mentality, and Mayock has more of that balanced principle mentality, and blending those two together has worked. Have you dealt with Mike Mayock at all? And how do you think he's going to do as the GM? I personally believe that he is one of the top 3 guys in recognizing and possibly developing talent in the NFL.
Just a couple occasions, but I agree with you. I think he's going to be the guy, but he's going to take his lumps. Let's see how his first draft turns out. I know there's a lot of talk about Jalen Ramsey. But look, hey, Mike picked a corner in the second round in Trayvon Mullen. At some point, you got to see if he can play.
Right.
I do agree he's got a good eye for talent, but look, the draft's an inexact science, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no question. Yep. If you're just joining us, we got Jon Becker on the line from the Oakland Tribune covering the Raiders. Okay, John, let's move to this weekend and let's preview this game. Of course, the Raiders on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. If you're wondering what the spread is in this game, the Raiders are getting 9, depending on which book you go to, and they're saying it's going to be a low-scoring game, the over-under around 43.5. So the million-dollar question would be to you, John. Can the Raiders keep this game close? Can they make it a one-score game?
I think they can. Obviously, they had some issues defensively, last week, and Patrick Mahomes will do that to you. But I think this is a good matchup for the Raiders, provided they get guys like Trent Brown and Josh Jacobs healthy in the game. I believe both will play. Trent Brown's knee is bugging him today. He was out there, but then he peeled off, so he didn't practice. He just was working off on the side. Got a feeling he'll play. But I think the matchup is one that the Raiders can deal with. Minnesota's defense is tough. Now, their front seven is going to cause a lot of problems. And if I'm a Raiders fan, I'm a little concerned Derek Carr doesn't deal with pressure very well.
I agree.
We saw last year. It's going to help that Richie Incognito's back, because last week the Raiders guards, Jordan Devey and Denzel Good, were sort of exposed by the Chiefs. So getting Incognito back is going to help, especially with, again, the Vikings line is pretty formidable.
Yeah, I think that if Trent Brown plays and Incognito plays, is Gabe Jackson playing or not?
No, but it sounds like he's close. We're thinking that he could be. I mean, they're not saying, but from the sound of it, maybe for the Indianapolis game next week.
I really like David Carr as a quarterback. Derek Carr as a quarterback. I believe that he throws a really good deep ball, but I don't think he has the size really to take a lot of hits, and like you mentioned, he doesn't handle pressure very well. Do you see him as the quarterback for the future for the Raiders, or is there a possibility that changes in the next few years?
Well, I think that's to be determined, but his contract's structured in a way that the Raiders can get out of it fairly, harmlessly. I think he needs to show that he's willing to stay in there and be a little bit more aggressive. Be aggressive, but also be smart. Derek, he needs a rhythm generally to play. That's why teams that pressure him, make him move around in the pocket, it causes him to be a little bit jumpy. I think he can be the guy. I believe John likes him. What he needs to do is he needs to trust, some of his receivers, and going back to Antonio Brown, that really hurt Derek. I think that's who it hurt, more than anybody, because that was a guy who was going to make plays for him, was going to make him look good. So now I think Derek needs to keep trusting, Darren Waller and Tyrell Williams. He also needs to, again, as anybody who's watched the Raiders has seen, Derek is quick to check down and maybe not let some of the routes develop. And that's where, if you look at the film, sometimes they're missing out on big plays.
Right.
Where, if he hung in there, took another couple looks on his progressions, maybe the big play is there.
All right, so I guess I want your prediction, obviously, this week. And can the Raiders win this football game?
I think they can. I really think it's going to be a one-score game. The problem is Kirk Cousins is also a quarterback who, you get to him, he's going to make mistakes.
He is.
He's coming off just a terrible game last week against Green Bay. He made a lot of bad decisions. But the Raiders just haven't really shown, outside of a little bit in that Denver game, that they've solved their pass rush problems.
Right.
If they can put pressure on Cousins, I think they can win it. I'm going to say Minnesota wins 23-17.
All right, for those bettors out there, that means the Raiders do cover the spread.
Covering the 9.5. I think if Cleveland Farrell has a big game, they have a chance to win. If he doesn't, you're right. Kirk Cousins is terrible under pressure. In fact, he doesn't beat teams with winning records. The Raiders are 1-1 right now, so
that's right.
They're right on the cusp of that. But I think Minnesota wins this game by 10+.
All right, well, we will see what happens. That's why we play the games, right? Well, Jon, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Enjoy your time out there in Minnesota, and hopefully we can catch up with you again soon, preview next week's game as well. We appreciate your time.
No problem. Take care, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Jon.
It's Jon Becker with the Oakland Tribune, beat writer for the Raiders.